Physics, the vibrational foundation of reality. Itzhak Bentov began his intellectual journey not as a philosopher or mystic, but as a trained engineer and inventor. He approached the mysteries of life with the same precision he used when designing machines. Yet, beneath his technical curiosity lay a question that would define his life's work. What is consciousness made of, and how does it connect to the fabric of the universe? Traditional physics had long separated matter and mind, treating consciousness as a byproduct of biology. But Bentov, through both meditation and experimentation, began to suspect that consciousness was not a side effect, it was fundamental. His theory started from an engineering principle so simple yet so profound: everything that exists oscillates. In Bentov's view, oscillation, rhythmic back-and-forth motion, is the universal law that links all things. Every particle, atom, planet, and biological system is engaged in an endless pattern of vibration. At the smallest scales, quantum particles vibrate within fields of probability. On larger scales, planets revolve around stars, hearts beat in rhythmic contractions, and galaxies spiral in cyclical flows. Bentov saw a direct correspondence between these scales. To him, there was no real boundary separating microcosm from macrocosm. Both followed the same mathematical principles of resonance, rhythm, and harmonic motion. This insight became the first pillar of his unified model. The universe is not a collection of things, but a collection of vibrations interacting within a single continuum. Bentov drew from classical physics, wave theory, and the emerging ideas of quantum mechanics to describe this reality. In a physical pendulum, for instance, energy continuously converts between potential and kinetic states. When displaced from its equilibrium, the pendulum stores potential energy. As it swings back, that energy becomes motion. This rhythm repeats endlessly until friction or external interference slows it down. Bentov extended this simple physical model to everything in existence, arguing that energy itself behaves as a pendulum oscillating between states of manifestation and rest, between matter and pure consciousness. In this model, even an electron orbiting a nucleus is not a static particle but a dynamic oscillation, a standing wave of probability suspended in rhythmic motion. He believed this pattern scales upward infinitely. The universe itself, according to Bentov, breathes. It expands and contracts in vast cosmic cycles, just like lungs inhaling and exhaling energy across eons. The idea that all of creation follows one vibratory law unified the physical and metaphysical in Bentov's mind. He called this the mechanics of consciousness, a framework in which reality is seen not as dead matter, but as a living, oscillating system of energy and awareness. Bentov was fascinated by the parallels between physical resonance and the experiences reported in deep meditation. When he meditated, he sometimes perceived rhythmic pulsations, waves of vibration moving through his body. As an engineer, he measured them. He found that certain frequencies in the heart and brain corresponded with measurable electromagnetic oscillations. It was here that physics and consciousness met. The same vibrational mechanics that governed a tuning fork or radio antenna appeared to underlie human awareness itself. The body, he realized, is not separate from the universe, it's a miniature resonant system within it. Modern physics defines energy as the ability to perform work, often represented mathematically through oscillations, waveforms that describe motion and potential. Bentov expanded this definition to include consciousness itself. Awareness, he proposed, is energy in a particular vibrational mode. This means consciousness and physical energy are two aspects of one phenomenon, distinguished only by frequency. Matter is condensed vibration. Consciousness is rarefied vibration. The universe, then, is a continuous spectrum from dense energy, matter, to subtle energy, mind. This was revolutionary because it reframed consciousness as an integral part of physics, not a mystery outside it. Bentov's conception mirrors, in many ways, what modern quantum field theory implies: that empty space is not empty at all. Even in a perfect vacuum, fluctuations occur, tiny oscillations of energy that appear and vanish continuously. These fluctuations are the foundation of all existence. What Bentov added was the recognition that awareness itself is the field observing these fluctuations. The observer and the observed are not separate entities. They are part of one vibrational process. He believed that when we perceive something, whether an object, a sound, or a thought, our consciousness momentarily synchronizes with the vibrational frequency of that phenomenon. Observation is, therefore, a resonant interaction. This is remarkably consistent with principles found in quantum mechanics, where observation seems to influence the behavior of particles. Bentov interpreted this not as magic, but as a mechanical fact of resonance. When two frequencies come into contact, they influence one another. Consciousness collapses reality not by will, but through vibrational synchronization. The more coherent the observer's vibration, that is, the more ordered and harmonic one's consciousness, the more precise and powerful the act of observation becomes. Bentov related this to meditation and spiritual practice, where the mind becomes still and synchronized. In such a state, the oscillations of the brain, heart, and subtle energy fields align into coherence, allowing deeper resonance with the universal field. From a physical perspective, this means the human system becomes more efficient at exchanging energy and information with the surrounding universe. From a consciousness perspective, it means one perceives reality more directly, with fewer distortions introduced by noise and chaos. To make this more concrete, Bentov used the analogy of radio communication. A radio works by tuning into specific frequencies. Each frequency carries a different signal. If the radio's internal circuits are aligned correctly, it can receive a clear transmission. If they are out of tune, the signal becomes static. In the same way, he suggested that the human nervous system is a complex biological receiver. The brain's electrical oscillations and the heart's electromagnetic pulses form a tuning system capable of perceiving different bands of reality. Ordinary waking consciousness corresponds to one narrow frequency range. Altered states, such as meditation, dream, or mystical insight, represent tuning into other parts of the same vibrational spectrum. Bentov's background in mechanical engineering helped him articulate this in a way that bridged science and mysticism. He used mechanical analogies not to trivialize consciousness, but to make it understandable. Just as a pendulum maintains rhythm through a balance of opposing forces, consciousness maintains existence through its oscillation between the manifest, physical, and the unmanifest, pure awareness. He called this the pendulum of consciousness. Every experience, every moment of perception, represents a swing between being and becoming. The rhythm of the universe, in this sense, is the rhythm of consciousness exploring itself. This model of oscillation provided a framework for unifying physics and metaphysics. Bentov's insight was that structure and awareness obey the same mathematical law. Frequency, amplitude, and phase concepts, normally reserved for waves in physics, could also describe patterns in thought and perception. A chaotic mind is like a disordered waveform, scattering energy in random directions. A coherent mind, by contrast, has a stable frequency that can interact harmoniously with the universe. This analogy not only connects physics and consciousness, it also provides a mechanism for understanding spiritual growth as an energetic process of increasing coherence. In the physical sciences, resonance occurs when one vibrating system drives another to oscillate at the same frequency. Bentov extended this concept to consciousness itself. When a person encounters truth, beauty, or love, they experience resonance, a harmonization between their inner field and a universal frequency. Likewise, dissonance, fear, or confusion arise when internal vibrations are out of sync with the natural rhythm of reality. Thus, spiritual development is not moral in Bentov's system, it's vibrational. The universe evolves by bringing chaotic vibrations into harmony. To illustrate this, he drew upon the analogy of standing waves. In physics, a standing wave forms when two waves of identical frequency travel in opposite directions and interfere with each other, producing stable nodes of vibration. Bentov proposed that matter itself is a kind of standing wave in consciousness stability arising from dynamic interaction. This means the physical world is not solid but an interference pattern created by consciousness oscillating with itself. What we call reality is the standing wave of awareness experiencing its own vibration. Bentov's unification of physics and consciousness is elegant because it solves several long-standing philosophical dilemmas. The hard problem of consciousness, how subjective, Experience arises from physical processes, disappears if consciousness is not produced by the brain but is instead the fundamental substrate of all existence. Matter, under this view, is simply the condensation of consciousness into slower, denser vibrations. Physics doesn't need to create mind. It is mind expressing itself mechanically. His ideas also reframe the nature of time. In classical physics, time is a dimension through which matter moves. But in Bentov's model, time is a byproduct of oscillation. Each swing of the universal pendulum creates the illusion of sequence of before and after at the still point of oscillation. When the pendulum reverses direction, time momentarily ceases. This insight aligns with mystical descriptions of timeless awareness in deep meditation or near-death experiences. Physically, it suggests that the perception of time is tied to the rhythm of energy exchange between consciousness and matter. Bentov's interpretation of physics was radical but deeply structured. He didn't abandon science. He expanded it to include observation itself as a physical factor. In his view, the universe is self-aware because awareness is embedded in the oscillatory structure of reality. Every subatomic particle is both an object and an act of perception, a unit of consciousness expressing itself through motion. Thus, the entire cosmos becomes a living system, endlessly oscillating between form and formlessness. By seeing vibration as the common denominator, Bentov achieved the first step of his unified model. Physics provided the language of energy and motion. Consciousness provided the context. The two were no longer opposites but mirror images. The laws of motion, resonance, and frequency apply as much to thought as to matter. And just as waves can interfere to create harmony or chaos, so too can human consciousness through its focus, intention, and emotion interfere constructively or destructively with the universal field. This understanding forms the scientific basis of Bentov's grand synthesis. Physics describes the stage on which all vibration occurs, but it is only the beginning. For the next layer, the translation of these universal vibrations into living, breathing experience, Bentov turned to biology. The body, he would argue, is the bridge through which physics becomes perception. Every cell is a resonator. Every organ a transmitter. The same oscillatory principles that govern the universe govern us. Through this realization, the physical laws of motion extend seamlessly into the laws of life and consciousness.